Mannikam, are you final year student?
Yes, sir. I am currently final year student.
Yeah, so on what project you are working in final year?
So, after January, we will start our project, sir.
Okay, after January you will get some project. So
Yes, sir.
it's a one semester project, is it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Hmm. Like Vikas was asking me regarding like what kind of project he is having and what are the things that needs to be done in that. So I thought like you may want to share your project also.
Can you share your email ID for more conversations? Because I
Uh,
think it will be depends.
I don't think so. I will be able to help you on like my email ID because I'm busy with other stuff. So in sessions only, if you want to ask few things, like we can discuss that.
Okay, sir.
Like few things, what happens is like I just like go through a mail. Like I just skip few mails because I'm busy with my PhD work. I'm in final year, right? That's why. So
Oh,
it's better you can ask me in live sessions only so that I can help you in that time only. It will be better.
sure, sir.
Yeah. I will upload like now this will be the sixth session, right? So I will upload next three videos on my YouTube channel. You can go through those videos. If you have any doubt, you can just comment in that. I will try to answer if you want. Like if someone of you skips the live sessions, then you can find it on like Swanand Telpande. You have to search on YouTube. You will get all the videos. So three videos are already uploaded, and next three videos I will like upload by this weekend or mostly by next weekend. So I guess we should start for this session. It's already 6:06. So in today's lecture, we will go through two extractive metallurgy questions. One question which deals with mechanisms of strengthening mechanisms, which comes in the domain of mechanical metallurgy. And one question we will have more. I just missed it. I will just tell you two questions of extractive and one is from physical metallurgy. Okay. So we will start with one physical metallurgy question. I will share my screen. I will give you 2 minutes to solve it, and I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, sir. Visual.
Yeah, okay, cool. So I will project first question today. So this is gate session 6 which I will be taking. So this is the first question. You try to answer this. For your knowledge, mercury is the only liquid metal in the periodic table. So you need to answer this question. 1 minute more. Just put the answer in chat box if you know the answer. This is a 1 mark question. So if you know the answer, it's like in 3-4 seconds only you can just write the answer. Okay, so just check. Manikam said A, Vikas C. Okay, let's discuss this answer then. This is question number 11, GATE Metallurgical Engineering 2014 question paper. As mercury is cooled from room temperature to 3 Kelvin, its electrical behavior changes from that of option A is conductor to insulator, option B is semiconductor to insulator, option C is conductor to superconductor, option D is semiconductor to superconductor. So firstly, like what is superconductivity? Basically superconductivity is like complete disappearance of electrical resistance. Almost infinite conductance is achieved in various solids when they are cooled below a critical temperature, and which is the characteristic temperature depending on various solids, below which what happens is like electrical resistance turns to be zero, which means that it can pass any amount of current, which is we are relating it that with superconductivity. As you can see in this graph, basically this is the plot of resistance with temperature. So with temperature the thermal vibrations in a material increase. So basically when we are talking about electrical conductivity, electrons are flowing through the material. So if the atoms are vibrating very fast, then these acts as the scattering point to these electrons, which basically increases the electrical resistance of the material. Hence you can see here in this graph that at higher temperature the electrical resistance of the material is higher. So as you go on increasing or decreasing the temperature, what happens is like the thermal vibrations decrease, which in turn decreases the electrical resistance, which is basically the scattering points for the moving electrons. So what happens is like if the material is not super conductive, then it will just follow this path. But in some materials it is observed that if you reach a certain critical temperature which is well below the room temperature, what happens is like it suddenly drops to zero resistance. Hence these materials which exhibits these phenomena are basically known as superconductors. Now coming to the question, like mercury, we know that it is a good conductor of electricity at room temperature, which is the only liquid metal. And the Dutch physicist Hugo Oens discovered superconductivity in 1911, and the material was mercury only. What he observed was at below 4.2 Kelvin, the material lost all of its electrical resistance and it tried to behave as a superconductor. So this like discovery of superconductivity was done on mercury only. So here the option is option C, from conductor to superconductor at 3 Kelvin. I hope this question is clear.
Yes, sir. Sir, can we say that if we decrease the temperature below the critical, then the metals behave from conductor to superconductor in all cases?
I didn't get your question. Like again, can you repeat?
Sir, I am saying that can we say generally all the metals when cool below its critical temperature, then it converted to the superconductor?
It depends. Like it does not like it is not a rule that every material will show superconductivity. I guess some lattice arrangement is also needs to take place. Like some class of materials will show superconductivity. If you like go in detail of superconductivity, what happens is like most metal which exhibits superconductors are called as class 1. Class 2 superconductors are basically alloys and mixture, like alloys. So if alloying is basically adding some substitutional or interstitial atom in a material, so it adds more towards the electrical resistivity. So if you go into that, some materials will exhibit superconductivity, not all.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. So you need to know class 1, class 2 also. So if you go by the notes of this lecture which I have given in the reference, you will find class 1 materials, class 2 materials which show superconductivity. So that you need to follow. You just have to know those the elements which show class 1 superconductivity, the elements or alloys which show class 2 superconductivity. You just need to know that. By referring the lecture, you will be able to know. I hope this is clear.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. So we will go to next question, which is from extractive metallurgy. So if you have studied extractive metallurgy in detail, you will be able to answer this question. Just a second. This question is related to the deoxidation and decarburization of liquid steel. I want to have a steel of which contains less carbon, less oxygen. So what is the process which I am doing and what is the science behind that process? You need to answer that. So one statement is assertion and another is reason. I will give you 2 minutes to answer this. Okay. So Vikas says option D. Okay. Others, do you require 1 minute more to answer that, or shall I start with the solution? Okay. Let's start with the solution of this. So if you are good in extractive metallurgy, then you would have like gone through this already, which like basically it's a VOD process. I will go through that. So this is question number 39, GATE Metallurgical Engineering 2014, question number 39. Determine the correctness or otherwise of the following assertion and reason. Assertion is deoxidation and decarburization of liquid steel are done by vacuum treatment process. Reason is decreased partial pressure of carbon monoxide promotes deoxidation and decarburization. So the option A is whether the assertion is false but the reason is true. Option B is assertion is true but reason is false. Option C is assertion is true and R is also true but R is not a reason for A. And option D is A is true but R is also true and R is the reason for A. So basically, if you have studied Le Chatelier's principle, if a system at equilibrium is subjected to change of pressure, temperature or the number of moles of the component, there will be a tendency for a net reaction in the direction that reduces the effect. So what does this mean is like, so if you look at the reaction, let's say we are doing decarburization, then the carbon in liquid metal, if it reacts with oxygen which we are passing by argon purging or oxygen purging, then what happens is like 2CO is produced. Okay, so here there are 2 moles of gas and here is 1 mole of gas. So 2 mole of carbon reacts with 1 mole of oxygen to give 2 moles of carbon monoxide. So let's say if we insert more pressure, let's go to the reverse way. So if high pressure is there, so what is happening is like 1 mole of gas is giving 2 moles of gases. So if we increase pressure, then the reaction will move from this to this, which will in turn increase the carbon content in the material. So let's say if we go another side, decrease the pressure, which is basically what means vacuum creation. Now according to Le-Chatelier's principle, what will happen as the pressure is decreased, this reaction will move towards right. So more carbon monoxide will be there, hence this will drop. The concentration of carbon present in the liquid metal will drop. So deoxidation and decarburization of liquid metal are done by vacuum treatment process because of this reason. And basically the reason which they are stating is like decreased partial pressure of carbon monoxides promote deoxidation as well as decarburization, so which is true. So the correct answer is option D, where A is true and R is also true, and R is the reason for A. Basically we have to generate more carbon monoxide so that the carbon should be out of the metal. I hope this is clear. Is this clear? Le-Chatelier's principle. Okay, so basically you need to learn in extractive metallurgy. Basic point is you need to know what reactions will be there in what cells. If you consider deoxidation, then some deoxidizers are added just like aluminium, so alumina will precipitate out in slag. So in these conditions you need to know what is the exact thing. So main thing in extractive metallurgy is you should know all the reactions, you should know this principle, Le-Chatelier's principle, and you should be able to apply it correctly to the question to answer that whether vacuum will assist things or whether high pressure will assist the reaction. And the reaction like effect of pressure, effect of temperature, and effect of moles, how all these three variables will play a role whether the reaction is moving forward or whether the reaction is moving backward. That you need to know in extractive metallurgy mostly, and these types of questions will be like repeatedly asked. Okay, so we will move to next question. Then I will project it and I will give you 2 minutes. So this next question is a time consuming question, so you need to know 4 different phenomena and then you try to answer this question. These are the different strengthening mechanisms in a material, so you need to like match the pair, or let's say 4 different strengthening mechanisms are there. You need to choose what which of the following mechanisms is related to the group 2. I will give you 2 minutes. In strengthening mechanism NPTEL videos, you can find all these strengthenings, which is basically grain size strengthening, work hardening, dispersion strengthening, and solid solution hardening or strengthening. These are different types of strengthening, in which one of the thing is precipitate hardening also. And for every strengthening there are certain mechanisms how strengthening is occurring, and you need to know that main thing is strengthening occurs because you are causing some hindrance or you are imparting few things in the material which are like opposing the dislocation motion. If the dislocation motion is easy, then the material won't strengthen. Strengthening is basically you require higher stress to deform a material. Same, like in two cases, if strengthening is not there, so you will require higher lower stress than in a material where you have some dispersions or some solid solution strengthening is there. Then you will require higher stress to move the dislocations from those obstacles. So by that thing you need to know which of the following mechanisms or which of the following mechanisms are there for which type of strengthening. So could you get the answer? I will just check once. Option C. Okay, good. Okay, we will go through the solution now. This is question number 42, GATE Metallurgical Engineering 2014 question paper. Match the following strengthening methods. Group 1 in metallic alloys with typical mechanisms responsible. Group 2 from them. So group 1 consists of grain size strengthening, work hardening, dispersion strengthening, and solid solution hardening. And the mechanisms are Orowan looping, Suzuki interaction, Lohmer-Cottrell barrier, dislocation pileup at grain boundaries. So firstly, what is basically grain size strengthening? Grain size strengthening is often also termed as Hall page strengthening. So what happens in Hall page strengthening is like, let's say if we have a material with grain size larger, and if we have a material with grain size very small. So this is a material with grain size small. So when dislocations are coming, they are like stopped by this grain boundary because the orientation of this grain is not same as this grain. So what Hall page tells us that when these dislocations are coming to this grain boundary, we require additional stress for this dislocation to start slip in this grain. So basically if I like try to zoom it, this is, consider this as a one grain. So the orientation of this grain is like this, whereas the orientation of this grain is like this, and this is the slip planes. So if this dislocation is encountering this grain boundary, so we will require additional stress so that this dislocation moves on this slip plane in the neighboring grain. So we will require additional stress. So what happens is like, as more and more dislocations pile up, we will require additional step to occur slip in the neighboring grain. So which is basically Hall page strengthening or the grain size strengthening. So the correct answer for P is option 4, dislocation pile up at grain boundaries. And you also need to know the stress rise because of this is given by this equation, where D is the grain size of the material. So you will require additional stress because of this grain boundaries. So more the grain boundaries, more is the hardening, or more is the grain size hardening, or more is the Hall page strengthening. So this is first way of strengthening the material. Now coming to second way.
Sir, एक minute. Sir, please repeat again. We require additional stress for.
Okay, I will repeat it. Just a second. So let's say I have 2 grains. So what happens is like, these are the slip planes. Let's say we are taking FCC material and these are 111 planes. So my loading axis is this. I am loading it like this. So these 111 planes are 45 degrees to the loading axis. So the slip will initiate in this grain first, right? Because it is 45 degrees. So shear stress will be maximum on these planes. Now consider another grain. However, in these 111 planes are differently oriented. Let's say it is like this. So let's say this is a gliding dislocation on this plane. It encounters a change in slip plane, right? So it is not having that much of energy for this dislocation to cross this grain boundary and start moving on this slip plane here. So what will happen is like this dislocation will stuck it here only near the grain boundary. Similarly, more dislocations which are slipping on this same plane will come here near the grain boundary, which will lead to the pile up. Hence this pile up near the grain boundary will create certain stress, and when it will reach a threshold stress, then this dislocation will jump onto this slip plane and will start slipping on that plane. Hence this increase in stress which is required for this location to go in the another grain and start plasticity in this complete grain is basically the grain size strengthening. Hence if you have more number of grain boundaries, you will have more dislocation pileups at grain boundaries, which will lead to more strengthening. Is it clear, Vikas?
Yes, sir, clear.
Yeah, okay. Now coming to work hardening. Basically in work hardening, what happens is like, let's consider a case of FCC material. In FCC material, as you may know that Shockley partials are there. So when two Shockley partials combine, they form a separate dislocation where the Burgers vector is out of the plane. Basically this plane is 100 plane. Two Shockley partials which are moving in 111 plane will combine to form a different dislocation of Berger vector, which will be the combination of B1 and B2, which will lie in some different plane. So the different plane will not be 111 plane. So if that thing occurs, this dislocation, which is the combination of these two Shockley partials, cannot move because that is not the slip plane in FCC. So what happens? This forms a sessile dislocation. Sessile dislocations means the dislocation cannot move. Hence, if this dislocation is present in a material, it will cause trouble for other dislocations which are easily gliding. So this basically is known as Lomer-Cottrell lock. And as this is a sessile and immobile dislocation, it is acting as a barrier for other gliding dislocations in that plane. Hence the work hardening which we are seeing is basically because of Lommel-Cottrell barrier. So the correct answer for work hardening is option 3, Lommel-Cottrell barrier. Now coming to dispersion strengthening. So in dispersion strengthening is like, I will just draw. Let's say I have a material where different grains are there, and I have a fine dispersoids present throughout in each grain, and these dispersoids are incoherent with the matrix. So I guess you guys know what is coherency and what is incoherency. Basically what happens, let's say I will tell you, like if the material, or let's say there is slight difference between a precipitate hardening and a dispersion hardening. Here you can see this is like the structure of this precipitate is like this, and whereas in the matrix it's like this. So what happens if this structure of matrix is coinciding with this? You will have coherent precipitate. Basically these bonds, all these bonds will be attached to some or the other. So this is coherent precipitate. Now go on increasing the disorder of this matching. So let's say I have a precipitate which is directly like this, oriented like this, and I have a matrix like this. So what happens is like this boundary which the precipitate and matrix is coherent, it is in incoherent boundary because no bonds are there here, whereas here the bonds were attached, however some coherency strains were there. So this is coherent precipitate and this is incoherent precipitate. So when the precipitate is incoherent or it is not related to the matrix, then we call it as a dispersion basically. So what happens in coherent precipitates, the dislocation can shear the precipitate also, shear the precipitate as well as loop it. However, when the precipitate is incoherent or dispersoid is present, then precipitate can like the dislocation can only loop it basically. And here in this I am telling you the same thing. Like let's say you consider this two as the dispersoids. When the dislocation is coming here, what it takes is like this has the obstacle to this dislocation path, so it tries to loop it, which is basically Orban looping, and after looping this dislocations moves forward. So you need to understand first, like the particles are present, the dislocation is coming like this, it is looping on this, so one dislocation line is more created here and this dislocation is just surpassing after that. So this is basically dispersion strengthening, and the mechanism related to that is Orban looping. So the correct answer for R is 1, Orban looping. Now coming to the fourth, which is the solid solution hardening. So basically solid solution consists of two things. One is substitutional and another one is interstitial. So let's say I have a matrix here, one foreign atom is sitting. If it is sitting at a lattice point, then we term this as substitutional solid solution. Otherwise, if let's say if the atom is sitting at a non-lattice site, then we term it as an interstitial solid solution. So what happens with that is like if this solute atoms, like let's say two Shockley partials are there, again I will come to the same example that two Shockley partials are there. So this partial create a stacking fault between them. So what happens is like these solute atoms segregate to the stacking faults there. Hence, if the dislocation is trying to come there, it will see lot of solute atoms near that stacking fault. Hence, the dislocation moment will be hindered because of this segregation of solute atoms near the stacking faults, which will lead to the strengthening thing. Hence, the solid solution hardening is basically depending on Suzuki interaction as the mechanism, prior mechanism. And also, if we go in detail, like if this atom size is greater than this, it will create some compressive stresses, right? So let's say this creates some stress field, this atom, foreign atom creates some stress field around that. So this dislocation which is coming near to this atom will experience this stress field. So it will be either get repelled because of that stress field, or it will be either get attracted. So this interaction will also strengthen the material more. Hence that's why in most of the pure elements, let's say aluminium, let's say copper, in copper brass is there, like brass is there, bronze is there, which basically we are having some substitutional solid solution we are creating, and we are increasing the strength of that because of Suzuki interaction. and because of interaction of solute atoms with the dislocations. I hope this question is clear. Most of the like strengthening mechanisms I covered in this question.
Sir, one thing I have to ask that, sir,
Ask.
in brain size hard strengthening, we are promoting the force. So that force is on the one particular plane or that particular regions.
It will be the force of the dislocation on the dislocation.
So
It's not a particular plane or nothing like that. It will be the force because of the interaction between the precipitate or let's say dispersoid. There will be some force exerted on the dislocation, right? So we are
okay,
talking about that force.
okay, sir.
Any other doubt? You may find details about all these things in the lectures, NPTEL lectures, where like I guess 3 lectures are there on strengthening mechanisms. There you can find everything regarding to all these mechanisms. Like, and you can tune the microstructure if you are working in this area. You can like tune the microstructure accordingly to achieve a maximum strength.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay, so we will go to the last question, which is again from extractive metallurgy. So this will complete 2014 gate questions, which are like devoted to me. Then I will start with 2012 question paper, where I will be focusing on mechanical metallurgy first, manufacturing processes, and few here and there physical metallurgy or extractive, if those questions are allotted to me. Okay, so I will be coming on last question now. I will give you 2 minutes to answer this. Here also, the reactions are important, as I already told you in the previous question. In extractive metallurgy, you should know all the reactions. One more minute if you can answer it. Okay. Answer C. Okay, cool. Let's start with the solution of this question. This is question number 51, GATE 2014 Metallurgical Engineering question paper. The important factors for producing low silicon pig iron in blast furnace are: option A is higher temperature and higher basicity, option B is lower temperature and lower basicity, option C is lower temperature and higher basicity, option D is higher temperature and lower basicity. So if you look at these reactions where the silica reacts with carbon, which is basically carbon from the coke, gives rise to silicon in pig iron. So if this reaction is taking place, we are getting higher silicon in pig iron, and for every reaction there is some delta G, like the free energy change is associated with every reaction. So let's assume that for this delta G is A minus BT, where T is the temperature. So let's say if we increase the temperature to a very high value, then the delta G will be negative, as you can see from the equation. So if delta G is negative, this reaction will be more and more favorable. So you will end up getting more silicon in your pig iron. So to retard this reaction, we require less temperature or lower temperature. And if you consider second reaction, where silica reacts with lime, as you know, it's a very highly basic. So if these two reacts, it will give rise to Ca2SiO4. So rather than this silicon going inside the pig iron, it will form a certain compound which is basically Ca2SiO4, and it will join the slag. Hence you will have less silicon in your pig iron. Hence the correct option is option C. Correct option is option C, where the lower temperature is there to retard silicon in pig iron and higher basicity is required to form this compound which will join slag, and less silicon will be there in the pig iron. So the correct answer is option C. I hope this question is clear. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I will summarize today's session. So in extractive metallurgy, you need to know what reactions are there, in that what are the effect of pressure, temperature and moles on it. And one more thing in extractive metallurgy is that few things like if you are in like studying non-ferrous extractive metallurgy, you should know what ore is for what element. That usually is asked in match the following or so. I have not covered that question, but you need to know every ore, from which ore which element is extracted and what is the process of that. So for extractive metallurgy, you can have 2 pages where you can write all the like elements which are like in the course, and you just write the ore of that. And similarly, let's say you are working in iron and steel, like you are working for iron and steel, then you write all the related reactions in that thing. So it will be helpful for you in later stages. And few processes are there like continuous casting and everything, that you will study. Like what you can do is like how the process is, basically you write short points of that. Firstly it will be in the tundish, and then it will follow through, and it will be as a cast structure it will come out. So in that you write just process wise, what is primary steel making, what is secondary steel making, just write bullet points, what are the things done in that, what elements are reduced in that, like carbon, oxygen, how they are removed, just the process name. That will help you to easily revise these sections, all these extractive metallurgy sections. And in mechanical metallurgy related to strengthening, you should know the mechanism for like how the strengthening is occurring. Basic funda is obstacle to the dislocation motion. In many ways we can have obstacle. One is precipitate, another one is dispersoid. One is like reducing the grain size, having more grain boundaries in a structure, and another one which I left like okay, solid solution strengthening, where if you put solid atoms, then the dislocations will interact with the stress field created because of that solute atom. These are the basic mechanisms where you will have strengthening because of all these things. And the last question was basically on mercury. Like these are basic things which are knowledge based questions, so I don't have anything to tell in that thing. If you revise it, then everything will be good. Any other doubt you have?
No, sir.
So in next session we will start with 2012 gate paper. There we will see 4 different questions. Okay, if you don't have any doubts, let's stop this session for today. We will meet next Wednesday 6 to 7. Okay, bye guys. Yeah.